Hey, good afternoon, everybody, and we are back. We have completed our NZXT 12900K build, and we had a few technical challenges. We were hoping to do this earlier today, but yeah, you know, all good plans, right? So, first of all, let me just talk a little bit about the whole process we had yesterday. I love this case. It's bigger than I thought it was. I should have looked at the box, right? It's every bit as big as my Thermaltake Series 500, although maybe not quite as wide as this series, but it's a big chunking case. Well, this is my second time, but I've worked twice now with NZXT cases, and I'm a fan. I would have expected this to be a lot more money, and it was, or would have been, if it hadn't been on sale. Doesn't come loaded with a bunch of like installed fans, but you can buy some decent 140s or 120 millimeter fans and stock it up if you want. But I've been super pleased with the performance just as it is. I've got a 12900K in there, and we're gonna get to the graphics card because we had to change that, had to deal with some memory issues too. So we'll get to that in a minute. But all in all, the thing runs great, runs quiet. It's really, really nice. It's big, so it's certainly not a tiny little compact thing. It would be my preference, but like a full-size case, easy to build in. I can just see it'd be easy to maintain. I'll show you guys just really quickly. You don't need any tools or stuff to get into it, but that's the interior is super, super nice, right?
And
Uh,
the and that glass is pretty hefty. It's
everything is everything on
good
this.
quality.
Yeah, my wife's over there on the thing. We will get her comfortable with having a camera on her, but right now she's just gonna stay the voice in the background. Yes.
That's
So there we go. Super nice. The front panel also pulls off. The top panel pulls off. Rear panel pulls off. You can open this thing completely up, and it's just really, really cool. The cable management was super easy. In fact, looking at this, I probably will reroute the GPU wires a little bit differently. But for now, we're up, running, we're working, good to go. Some of the things, yes, Sue.
Does that glass have a screen protector over it right
Right
now?
now, it's just got a film,
Film of
so it's got a
plastic?
peel. So if we
Okay.
took the peel off, then it wouldn't look so milky.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saving the peel. I don't know, maybe I'll sell this machine. Don't know yet. So I'll let the new owner, if they choose to do it, take the peel off. Um, let's talk about some of the challenges I ran into. First of all, yesterday, the whole plan was to run 64 gigs of RAM with 4 DDR5 sticks at 6,000 megatransfers per second. It didn't work. I mean, it would boot and start up and look like it was going good, but I couldn't get Cinebench to like complete. So I tried downclocking it, and I could get it to run at like 4,300, and it would run sort of. But if I got 6,000 RAM, why do I want to run it at 43 or 45 or 48? I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. So I pulled 2 chips out. I'm running 32 gigs, 2 chips at 6,000. That works fine. So we're still dealing with 4 chips, DDR5 in that motherboard. Doesn't like to run. Other thing I ran into is this is my 4070 Ti, um, and I put it in there and it was working fine, but it was performing like 75% of what it ought to. And I'm like, that's odd. I did some research online of the scores I should be getting, and it was 25% slower. And I just don't know why that's above my particular pay grade. I did check to see if I was made sure, because this has a selectable BIOS. I made sure that I was on the OC BIOS and stuff. And, in the end, I said, why would I put an $800 GPU in there for just not to get what you can out of it? So I found my 3070 Ti, which was what I had wanted to put in this originally, threw it in there, and yeah, that works great. In fact, it works better in here than it has in other systems. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is. Everything looked like it should be working just fine, but this was just not working good here. So anyway, whatever causes that, again, above my pay grade. So the other thing I wanted to do is I wanted to not drive this really hard. So one of the first things I want to show you guys are the PL1 and PL2 settings that I've come to for this that I'm happy with, and they're like super performant without overheating. So all of the fuss and headache I went through in the beginning, of course, that was all a learning curve because I didn't know what the heck I was doing at the time a few years ago with this new stuff. I had bought the 12900K. Hey, I can tweak all these settings. Look at this, but I was always hitting that thermal throttle 100C, 100C, 100C. And I was not really, there's no improvement in like Cinebench. I would use Cinebench to get a score, tweak it. I'd still hit the thermal limits, and I get no benefit. So I started looking at, did some research and saying, all right, what are the PL1, PL2s? Well, Intel's new numbers, at least on the 13 and 14s, is like 125 PL1 and 188 PL2, like baseline, right? So with a max of what, 253 PL1, PL2? So my wife knows what the heck I'm talking about because I know she's like, so imagine if you've got your car and your cruise control is 60 miles an hour. Okay, but now you need to pass somebody and you need to hit the throttle. Okay, so that PL1, okay, would be your cruising speed, your 60 miles an hour. Now you need to pass an 18-wheeler. You hit the throttle, you can go 110 for like a little bit, but then it's going to take you back to 60. So you better get around that semi. Yeah, right. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now Intel's old thing was PL1 equals PL2, which means, yeah, balls out, baby. Just go. But your engine overheats and your car blows up and you die. So that's bad, right? And that's what's been happening to we think, we don't know for sure, but we think running redline all the time kills these things. So I didn't want to go through that again. And I don't know if that happened with my 12900 or not, but I know that it was unstable as hell and didn't run right. But now in the same exact system, I put a 13700, works beautiful. Not a single problem for over a month, not a single hitch up, crash, glitch, blue screen, nada. Been stable, has been wonderful to have a system that doesn't freaking crash whenever it feels like it. This would go for a week and then all of a sudden be terrible. It was unbelievably frustrating. But anyway, that's been running great. So I know everything else was fine. The processor was the problem. Now I've got a brand new processor from Intel 10 here. And again, pulling the memory out. So we're running 2 sticks, not 4. And I've slowed, I have like capped the power. So let's look at that. So why don't you bring up screen 3 and put me down in the corner. Okay, so we're gonna load, no, that's gonna be fine. Okay, so what I'm gonna do, and I have a bunch of numbers here, and I'm not gonna run the full Cinebench because why do we wanna do that? It takes too long. I have the numbers here. We'll get to those in a minute. But I'm gonna go ahead and pull up Cinebench here. Now for my wife, what Cinebench is a tool that people use for rendering, but it's a great way to actually stress your CPU. So it takes, this processor has up to 24 what's called threads or things it can do at once. Sue, just so your mic, is everything okay over there?
Yeah, sounds super low to me. But
it's super low because it's 14 feet from your face. So if you get it up closer like this, it'll work better. Yesterday we do in the video, she's like, she's talking like this. It's so quiet.
Is that better? I don't know if that's better or not.
I think we need to get you a different shirt to wear because it just kind of weird. Anyway.
Oh, I'm so glad I'm not on camera.
So Cinebench for my wife and for you guys, I'm sure if you're watching this, you already know what this is. But it stresses the CPU. It puts max percentage, like 100% usage, there we go, and like as hard as you can push it. Now, what I did is I ran, that's the wrong button. I ran with Intel's hardware spec, which like this board, it doesn't have an updated BIOS since like December, so it doesn't have all the new settings. But on this, it has like an Intel POR setting, and that was 241. So I tried running that, and it thermal throttled within the first pass. So the first pass going through, we hit 100C. I don't want to be running 100C. So I started changing the power limits in the motherboard because I can go manually do that. And I don't know if it makes sense for me to show you. You want me to show that? It wouldn't be a thing to show it.
I mean, nothing you've said so far makes any sense to me. So
let me
If
actually let
it
me
makes sense to them, then
let me restart this, and we'll go into the BIOS, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I got to tell you, I really like the way this setup works, where I can have the picture-in-picture
I
and
do
have the
too,
screen.
yeah.
That's like very cool. So we'll wait for us to get a boot screen here. I'll go into the BIOS, and I'll show you where I made these settings. Okay, so this is the inside of the computer on the motherboard. You can do all your settings. We got to go to advanced mode here. And then we're going to go to advanced CPU settings, and we're going to go to down to CPU turbo power limits. Okay, so if I go here and I choose Intel POR, it effectively sets the power that the CPU can draw at 241 for both like cruising and passing speed. All right, I'll use those terms for you, babe. So cruising would be 241 miles an hour, and passing would be 241. So it's like a lot.
Where are you seeing those numbers?
Well, I'm seeing right. I'm telling you what it was.
Okay.
It's an auto setting. So if I go here, I double click this, I hit Intel this, then all of these change to auto.
Okay.
But when you go into the system and you run the test, you see it draws 241. And I'll go back when I leave here, I'll go back into hardware info, and it tells me what my limits are on that list of information. I'll show you in a minute.
Okay.
So I went here, and this is my power limit 1, and I manually set it to 200.
Okay.
Now I played with a bunch of different settings. Like Intel's like default would be 123 to 125. 125 here, and then 188 here. Okay? So when I was doing the testing, I saw I had a lot of headroom with the cooler. I'll get to that in a minute. And it actually, I could go more. And so I said, well, they say PL1 equals PL2. So let's see where the balance is. And at 200 seemed to be, for me and this system, the way this is set up, with that cooler, seemed to be a good fit. Now that cooler is a $35 cooler. And I knew that a $35 air cooler was not going to tame a 12900K that was uncapped. So I knew that. So let's go ahead and go back into Windows. We're going to escape out. Escape. Quit without saving. Yes. Okay. Go back into Windows now. So first thing I'll do, I'll show you hardware info where it's showing those limits. I also tried playing with Intel Extreme Tuning Utility a little bit. And that was, I don't know, I don't like having something that software has to load up and then it configures it. I'd rather have it configured before we even get into Windows, so I'd prefer to do it in the BIOS personally. So that's why I'm using that. Okay. We'll go ahead and get in here.
You want me to take this?
No, we're fine. Okay, so let's go back into hardware info here. And we're going to hit this. And hopefully the noise canceling is working today. It's very warm today here in Texas. So if we go down here, we're going to see power limits right here. PL1 power limit, PL2 power limit, they're both 200. See that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's how I knew it took. And it's what I had been running into is I had made some other changes and it didn't always save. So now that it's saved at 200, 1 and 2 is fine. Now let's look at what Cinebench does. And there's really, well, there's three things I care about. One would be CPU power draw, CPU temperature, and frequency. So I'm not going to be concerned about frequency right now because I know it performs okay. But we are going to look here and watch our temperature. So the max temperature is 100 C. I want to stay out of that. I do not want to have thermal throttling. I don't want to be pushing this full tilt, but I still want to get at least 95% of the performance that I paid for. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to hit start here, and then we'll go back to hardware info. Okay, so now it's going to do its thing. It's going to draw these little pixels, these squares, and it's 1 square per thread, I believe, and it's just right to it. Now we can see that our temps are 80s here, And this column here shows our maximum temperature, and this column here shows our wattage. So we're drawing 199 watts, and we're at 87 C.
So
Now-
it's analyzing.
Yeah, it actually monitors these sensors. So I mean, we are sitting right at, for our first run. I can't see.
You want me to make it smaller
Just
or
no, just
to
move
the
it to the center.
Same.
Yep, that's good. I just wanted to see what this number is. So 26,000 and some change. You can put me back now. It's fine. Okay, so
No, can I now?
yeah, maybe. Now, if you let this run for 10 minutes, everything saturates, everything gets warm. You hit a like this equilibrium, and this is where we're at right now, 91C, 90 to 91C, and it'll just stay there through the entire 10-minute run. So it stays out of the thermal throttle. My score, and we can just pull that up. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this now. But as you can see, well, I hit 92. It was a little warmer here than it was this morning. Because it's like 82 degrees in here. What's the temperature on the clock behind you? Oh, hold on, right here. It's 80 degrees in here, 81. This is pretty warm in the office.
Yeah.
So it's 81 ambient, so this is doing pretty good. That little $35 cooler is doing a banging job controlling this heat. So 91, 92, I'll take it. If it stays out of that 95 to 100, doesn't thermal throttle, I'm happy. Now let's stop this. Okay, so you guys can see 200 here seemed to be the ticket, and I ran all of our tests with those levels. Thanks. So I have here our numbers, and the baseline, if you guys get a minute and you care to watch it, I did a video on the little baby Nook 9. It's a really cool little computer, and I've been doing some other videos. I wanted to have a baseline, what I call performance, my performance baseline of I want it to at least perform like this, and then we kind of see how far does it fall short or does it exceed it. So my baseline is my 13700K system. Now, so 13700K, it's running DDR4, 3200 but 64 gigs. It's got a 3090 in it, and it's got, Gen 3, a mixture of Gen 3, Gen 4 NVMe's. It's a solid machine. It's what I do all of my day-to-day work is that. The only game I play on that rarely would be Halo Infinite, just because it's in Steam and I don't want to load anything else. And I can, that's a quick 10-minute and I'm done. I can move on to something else, kind of clear the palette kind of a game. I'm not going to burn a bunch of hours on it. Anyway, so let's look at some numbers. Sue, I want to, can you go back to putting the computer screen up for me? And then put me in the corner. I'm going to go to, okay, so I have a bunch of benchmarks that we've done. And I really wish it didn't do this. For whatever reason, it does not save. Okay, so let's look at Cinebench first. Use photos, why not? Okay, so these are the numbers that I got this morning. What?
I was going to try and close.
I think we try and close that out. Okay, so we can see here that my numbers, multi-score was 26,705. That's pretty good. I mean, when I had this originally and I was running uncapped, unlimited, that's about what I got. So instead of trying, and this thing would push when I had the 420 liquid cooler and all that stuff, it would draw over 300 watts easy, like no problem. And I would not get much better than this. So what's the point? So 200 for me seems to be the key. Compare this to my 13700. My 13700 does 30,000. So this does 26.7. Pretty close, right? Single core score is It's 1489. Well, my 13700 is almost 2000, so that's a kind of a difference, big difference, right? So that's one of the big improvements between 12th gen and 13th gen. We go over to Geekbench. So this was interesting. This is where you have to do maybe different tests, and I don't know all the particulars. That's not my thing. I'm just using these as a frame of reference, right? So this does really well. Multi-score of 17,410 and a single core score of 2748. Now compare that to my 13700. It did 15,300 for a multi. So this actually outperformed my 13700. And the single core score was margin of error. It was 2785. So 2748 for this one, 2785 for that one. So again, margin of error. As far as the graphics score, that's a 3090. This is a 3070 Ti. And yeah, I mean, the 3070 Ti, you're going to keep up with 3090. So, but the OpenCL was, let's see, I've got it right here, was 142,000, say 500. And this one, or that one was almost 200,000. So pretty big difference there. And let's see, can I scooch over? All right, so Vulkan score, again, this was 130,000, was 131, and that was 186. So pretty big difference with the graphics, but it's completely different graphics cards, so that would make sense. Now let's go to our next set of numbers, which is, let's do, we'll save 3D Mark for the last. Let's do Passmark. Not Passmark. Let's do PC Mark, excuse me. It's at the bottom. Right there. Okay, so again, I'm using these as simply as a frame of reference and a baseline. So eventually, and my wife does most, if not all of our web updates and stuff, but we're going to create a chart and we'll have the machines listed with their scores. You kind of see where they fall. I think that'll be kind of cool. We're going to be building that shortly, probably in the next couple months. We'll start putting that together as we get more of this out. Okay, so this actually scored really well. I don't know why we're looking at like almost, let's say 8,900 there. I would have expected this higher. That machine scores basically 9,500, so pretty big difference. But
by that machine, he means his work.
my work computer, my 13. I'm pointing at the 13700K. It's right over there. That's what she's doing the stream on. Okay, so the essentials for this were actually higher, and the productivity was just slightly lower. And of course, the digital content creation on this one was a little lower because it's got a 3070 Ti versus the 3090, so big difference there. But it's very close. Like this one is 11,065. That was 10,890, so pretty close. Productivity, this was 11,013. That was 11,947. So kind of a difference there. And the digital content creation, this was 15,823. And that one was 17,600. So still pretty doggone close. I mean, I don't think in a blind, like if you just had keyboard, mouse, and monitor and you never saw the PC, I don't know that you'd see a difference. I think you'd be hard pressed to tell difference, frankly, unless you were rendering something and you knew that it used to take 5 minutes and now it takes 6.5 minutes or whatever. What?
Oh, goodness.
Yeah, I know, right?
The extra minute and a half.
Well, you know, for
That's
some
me.
people, well, look, I mean, she's like the extra minute and a half. This is what it's taken me the last 3 or 4 years getting back into this hobby this long to wrap my head around. Oh my God, have I wasted so much time and money and energy chasing a freaking needle that I can't even tell the difference with. I mean, really. And I think part of what I want to do with the whole channel is let people know there's a lot you can do with maybe last generation or 2 generations ago, and you're not actually losing anything other than you're not having to spend so much money. So to me, I think that's really cool. And if I can help you guys save some money and not waste any time, to me, that's a winner chicken dinner. And that's what I'm hoping to do. It's taken me a lot of money and effort and time to realize that, but that's sort of what it's come to. And I think it's great. I mean, This is still way super performant. I would say if I was building a machine, like if I had an office and I had a bunch of employees and I needed them to run, I didn't want them to be like lagging. I would probably put AM4 systems in, maybe go with 5800Xs or 5600Xs across the board, 32 gigs of RAM, 1 or 2 terabyte NVMEs depending on their needs, and a basic GPU, probably an NVIDIA GPU like a 3060 or something. And I guarantee you those machines are going to run great. They're just going to run great and stable and be fine. If you had anybody that needed to really do some heavy lifting, well, gosh, you get a 5900X or 5950X, and the 5950X will outperform this one. So anyway, you guys get the idea. There's so much you can do that you don't have to go spend and buy a 14th gen Intel or or even like the 7000 series AMD. And I know they're going to come out with the new stuff. I mean, we're like 6 months away, maybe a little bit more, 8 months away from like the next thing. Yeah, Sue.
Brandon says he still loves his 5600X AMD, and his 1080 might be a bit aged, but works great for 1080p gaming.
Okay, so that is exactly the point. Like one of my favorite process. I have a build. When I got back into this, it was right when you couldn't buy GPUs. You just could not buy them. A basic GT whatever was like $300-$400. A 3060 was $1,000. So it was the wrong time, like the absolute wrong time for me to do it. But what was cool is that everybody was buying like Dells and all these things because they had the GPU. They'd yank the GPU and sell the carcass for like next to nothing on eBay. Well, I got a bunch of those carcasses. One of them was an Alienware, had a 5600X in it. It didn't have a GPU. I just sat on it. Well, I just threw a GPU in that thing, and man, that's a nice machine. I mean, it's a Dell Alienware. I get it. People have their aversion to it. But if you're not trying to overclock it and you're just playing some games and your thing runs like a top, I love the doggone thing. Anyway, I've got 3 Dells Alienwares over there. I have two Intels and 1 AMD. And the AMD, gosh, you can buy the carcasses now. I've seen them for like $350. Just if you go that route, make sure you get the 1000-watt power supply and the liquid cooling. It's the only way I would ever buy them, so that you had the AIO and you had the high power supply. You put whatever you want into it. And I wouldn't put top tier CPUs because the AIO can't handle it. It runs really hot and it's loud. But you do like an i7 or a 56 or a 5700. They just really ran good. So anyway, yeah, I like the 5600K a lot. I think it's a great processor. Certainly a ton. It's more than enough for, gosh, unless you're using it for business and you're doing a ton of production work, I don't see why you need more. You can want more, and it's fun to have more, but need is not it. So let's go back to my screen, hun. I want to do the 3D Mark Time Spy. Now again, I'm using these purely, guys, for 0.0 reference, right? So I'm not, I don't have the time nor inclination to go and play hours and hours of games for benchmarking. I know I would like to, but I actually have to earn a living, and this is just fun right now. This is not earning me any money. Yes, Sue?
The gaming that you do, is that different than the gaming you would have to do for 10?
Yeah, it would be, because the only game I really play competitively is Valorant. My daughter and I play it. She got me into it. I really enjoy it. I get frustrated with it, but I enjoy that game, but it doesn't need much hardware to run. So like if I ran it on my 13700 with a 3090, I'm so overdriving my monitor, it's not even funny. And I have a big 49-inch widescreen Samsung, but it's 120 hertz. So what good is it running 600 frames per second when the monitor only shows 120? No point in it. Anyway, that's actually kind of a topic I would like to get to another day. So I'm using this for frame of reference because it gives me some numbers that we can at least reference. And 3D Mark is a pretty well-known and well-accepted, way to benchmark stuff. So I think it's more objective than subjective personally. So that's why I'm using it. So like the overall score is pretty good. It's a 15,000, 373. Now my 13,700 with the 3090 post 18,000 and some change. So again, the 3090 is a pretty awesome GPU. The graphics on this is 14,793. The 3090 is 18,816. So, you know, we're what, 25, 30%, 25%-ish faster unless you have like a monitor that can really make use of it, you're sort of just wasting money. The CPU actually outperformed that on the CPU side. So this CPU mark was 19,766, and I ran this again on my 13,700. Did I type it in wrong? No, this is actually faster. In this test, this did better. Okay, it didn't do as good in Cinebench. So you can see how different tests are going to give different results that way. If we look at like gaming, theoretical estimated gaming performance, we're looking at 1080p Ultra with Apex at 140 plus. Kick over to Battlefield, 200 plus on 1080p Ultra. Now I should probably get the 1440, and it would just be more screen captures. So the next videos I'll probably do that. I'll redo this one. If we ever post that chart up, I'll have the extra numbers up because I think it's worth doing. And then Fortnite it's just maxed out 300 plus for 1080p. Again, estimated frames, estimated. 3D Marks, professional, smarter than I am, estimated performance. The other thing I wanted to look at dealt really with temps. So if we look over here, this was like max CPU temperature. So this is this only has one fan in the front, one fan in the back. So you would think it's not going to have good airflow. Well, that just ain't the case. This thing works great. I would probably bling it out a bit. I was looking today on Amazon for some white case fans, maybe RGB, kind of make it pretty. Might do that, may not do it, I don't know. But for like 50 bucks, you could get a 3-pack. I would probably go ahead and get a 6-pack and then max it out with all matching fans. You don't need to do that. That's me pimping my ride a little bit. You don't need that. But that's the kind of stuff I like doing. So, you know, hey, whatever flips your skirt, right? So max CPU temperature during this Firestrike run was like 82 degrees, which is pretty good. Again, we've got a $35, $36 CPU cooler, little air cooler. So would it do better with an AIO? Well, I'm actually thinking about picking up a 360, one like a cheap 360. Was it Thermalright? One of those guys, one of the like super affordable ones. They were like 60 bucks or something. I might be worth seeing. I don't know that we're going to get anything better because that actually, having spent a lot of time fighting with this processor, trying to get it under control heat wise, that cooler's doing a bang up job. And then the max, one more picture here. The max GPU temp was right here. It was 79 degrees. So everything stayed pretty cool in the case. I'm super happy with it. I would like to do, I would almost say, I'm going to swap this to my desk and I'm going to use it. And no, I'm not, because I have so much work to get done. But I am going to try and think of something I could do. I know if my daughter was here, she'd be screaming. I say, I'll give it to her and let her break it because she has been able to do that with virtually anything else I gave her, except this other computer, which is like, it's a 3700X and a 6700 XT. And she had not been able to break that thing. So that has been super stable. So if I talk to her about swapping that out, she'd probably pitch a fit. So I won't do that. But I don't know. I'll try. Maybe I'll put this over here and use it for my gaming computer for a while just to see how it works. And there's like a secondary video editing machine. I might do that to see how it holds up. Because really, I've used it for, I don't know, 8, 10 hours. So can I really say it's stable? I need to really use it. But I'll tell you, it's way better. I mean, it's certainly far better than it was with the old processor. So I'm pretty pleased. I do think it was odd that my 4070 Ti ran for dog poo in here. So I think like if I were to do anything, probably swap out the motherboard with a new, I may even go with like a 760 versus a 790. I'm not going to overclock it. So as long as I can set those power limits to something that's reasonable, it's not going to burn the chip up, not going to thermal throttle. Might be just what I do. I don't know yet. I can get a Z790 board and call it a day. But I would like to be able to run my 4 chips and run my 4070 or whatever. But for now, doing a pretty good job. Pretty happy with it. I probably will go ahead and swap it over to my gaming computer and let it just run that for, I don't know, see how it does for a couple months for my daily, when I get to it, daily gaming stuff. But that's going to be it for now, guys. I hope you guys learned something. I hope it was useful, helpful, something. We have more videos coming. We have some editing. I want to get the H1 build. We have a part 1 and part 2, and I have a part 3 on that one because I finally sort of finalized what the doggone thing was going to be. I was going to actually use that as my work. I was so frustrated with that. When that was the 12900K, that my desktop, I was so frustrated with that. I was going to use the tower. If you watch the videos when they're done, you're going to hear me reference that a lot. That was going to be my thing, but I decided not to because I ran into another problem with that one. That was actually my fault for mismatching GPU, power supply, all that sort of stuff. That one right now is like super nice. And if I were to swap to something, it would be that one with this GPU. And I'd probably be set for a while because that's got a 5950X in it. That with the 4070 Ti is a banging combo. Anyway, that's going to be it for now. Thank you guys for watching. If you have questions, comments, or you'd like to see some cool stuff, if I've got it, we'll set it up. We'll do it. Let us know what you think of this way of doing live videos. My wife's over there with the little switcher button and can do the picture-in-picture stuff in real time, which I think is cool. That's going to be it for now. My name's Rick here with Dog River Design Everything Tech. Thanks for watching. Good tea, babe.